name's Ravenna Nuaimy-Barker, and I'm the Director of Sustain Ontario. We're a provincial alliance for healthy food and farming. What we do is work towards a food system that is healthy, equitable, financially viable, and ecologically sound. And what we do to get there is bring together players throughout the entire food system, from farmers to food bank users, academics, government officials, and everybody in between, to share ideas, develop new ideas, create new policy, advocate for systems reform, and do research. Sustain Ontario has existed for just over 2 years. So we're a very new organization, and we were really born out of a process that was facilitated by the Metcalfe Foundation that brought together many people who were creating sustainable food systems to say, what's the gap? Why aren't we moving forward? Why isn't this becoming the system that's feeding us and keeping us healthy and meeting all of the environmental opportunities that we have through food? And those people said, well, we just don't have the energy, the time, or the body to bring ourselves together, to exchange knowledge, to build on our knowledge, to grow all of that, and also policy and advocacy is a huge gap. So we were born from that. Throughout the world, the system that provides food for people to eat is not working well. There are 1 billion people who are overweight or obese on this planet, and there are 1 billion people who are starving. So we've got a big gap, and there are a lot of brilliant solutions out there that can fix that gap, that can make sure that we all have access to healthy food that is culturally appropriate for us, that's produced in ways that are nourishing to the earth rather than stripping it. And so we exist to, in Ontario specifically, bring together all of those people who are already creating that food system. There are hundreds of organizations and individuals across this province who are creating that food system right now, and our job is to bring them together, to make sure that they're learning from one another and to help them scale up their solutions through all sorts of things, including practice as well as policy. Developing markets for farmers and rebuilding what we call the middle of the food system is another way that farming can become more profitable. Food production in general. In Ontario, we've really lost a lot of the infrastructure that we had around processing. It's something that I only learned about in the last few years, and so it's very fresh for me, and I realize that most people don't know that we don't have plants for processing pickles or peaches or things like that. So foods that farmers are producing, they can only sell fresh on the market, and they're not able to capture the food value dollar. So if people are buying, for example, frozen corn, it's almost never coming from Ontario. So rebuilding that and actually giving farmers an ownership stake in all of those elements is really, I think, a great tool.
And making it truly local as well. Making
it truly local. Another great way is through institutional procurement. We have so many public institutions, schools and hospitals, even prisons, government, that buy food. And if we produce a local market for that food by saying those institutions are going to buy directly from local farmers, we really are creating a food system where farmers don't have to be the marketers as well. They can just grow the food, and they already have the market to sell it to.
So everybody playing their part, doing what they do best, and...
Exactly. I mean, the farmer today is totally squeezed. They're out in the fields, they're then at the farmer's market, they're having to reach out to their customers. They're having to do all sorts of website development, marketing, when really what they're great at is growing food, so let's let them do that.
Yeah.
Really the vision is of a food system where farmers can make a living by farming in a way that is good for their families, good for their communities, good for the planet, and where all people are healthy and well-nourished by a food system that's providing them primarily locally, but also from some imported food that is good for them. And people are making good choices and also connecting to their communities through food. So that's sort of the long term. The intermediate, there are a lot of things that we're working towards right now. One of the things that I'm most excited about advocating for at this moment is having Ontario increase their funding of student nutrition so that all children have access to healthy food at school, and also integrating food literacy into the curriculum so that all kids leave school not only learning about food, how to grow it, how to cook it, how to compost it, how to eat well and make healthy food decisions, but also having a more enriched educational experience, because food is so hands-on and a great way to learn about everything from history to mathematics, English. Very exciting. So that's one of the things that I'm very, very excited about. Another thing that I'm excited about advocating for is a program called Alternative Land Use Services, where farmers are rewarded for the ecological system services that they provide on their farm. Things like creating clean air by not cutting down trees or by planting more trees, creating habitat by not plowing their fields at a certain time when migratory birds are passing through, sequestering carbon through beneficial ecological practices, things like that. That's another one that I get really very excited about.
Those are great, actually. Yeah. Those are great. How are those things? Those two things particularly. How are those going right now?
Well, as far as on the ground, there are some great things happening. In Ontario, we have the Norfolk Alice project, which is demonstrating how these things can work in developing quantification protocols to figure out how much farmers will be rewarded for certain things. There are organizations all across the province that are already doing sustainable food system education in schools, teaching kids about everything from, why it's important to eat local and organic food, to how you make healthy choices. So those things are great. As far as advocacy, I think we're just getting started. So we're a bit away, but if we can find friendly representatives and staff folks within the government, I think we can move them forward at a policy level as well.
And also, I think the general public and other people being aware that you guys exist and what you do and what you're capable of doing, and why it's important.
Yeah, and everybody has a role to play in this. We decide 3 times a day how we're going to interact with the food system. So it's a huge opportunity, and one that can be quite joyful as well. And I think that's something that's beginning to shift. I think the whole environmental movement has really helped people understand that we're dependent on the things around us. It's no longer just about dominating, but actually working in harmony with the natural systems that sustain our lives. So there's a huge growth in people who are growing their own food, who are interested in their food, shopping at farmers markets, who care. There's a long way to go. One of the great things about food and why I'm so drawn to this work is it's something that each of us can make a decision about all the time. So it can be as simple as learning where your food comes from when you're shopping in the grocery store, asking what's local, to meeting your farmer, to growing your own food, to advocating, asking your political representatives what they're doing about food to make sure that people have access to healthy food, to make sure we're making good food decisions, to make sure that farming is financially viable. So it starts at home, and it can start on your plate. It can start with just making some healthy choices, and it can go as far as going to Parliament Hill and asking your representatives to do something about food for you. Again, my name is Ravenna Nuaimy-Barker. I'm the Director of Sustain Ontario, the Alliance for Healthy Food and Farming, and you can get in touch with us at sustainontario.ca.